first problem that we have inside government today is that they argue this debate in the abstract in terms of vague individuals and what they have responsibility with weapons, right? The burden of proposition here is to prove why Tony Stark is a comparison between him and the government, why he is more responsible than the people to hold on to the Iron Man, right? Which is why the first level of my substantive data, I'm going to talk about two things. First of all, why we think Tony Stark is the more trustworthy individual, and why ultimately he shouldn't do this because he goes against his moral beliefs and everything we stand for. Now, of course, this motion asks us for the perspective of Tony Stark, right? But we somehow like to talk about ourselves in the third person, and that's how the debate is going to proceed, right? But even if we want to talk about in the abstract level, talk about government and responsibility, I'm further going to explain why we think Tony Stark giving the Iron Man to the government will further undermine international peace and stability, make it even more harmful for things that he's trying to do, which will undermine everything that Iron Man was created for. It's fundamentally harmful, right? Before I go on to that, some quick rebuttals that don't fit into the general substantive, and I'll integrate the rest of it in the substantive later. First of all, he argued that governments should get it because they're more responsive to the needs of the people, right? A government is somehow thought being responsive to the needs of people was milking the poor and Manhattan. But I'll go into that later, right? I have several rebuttals to this. First of all, the assumption is that the people actually get to decide how weapons are used. They misunderstand the nature of how weapons are used in today's world, right? But the government often, on the pretext of national security, keeps the usage of these weapons secret, right? And doesn't allow people to decide how they are used. We see, for example, the prosecution of the drone war in Yemen and Pakistan, the details of which are kept hidden from the American public. The American public doesn't even have access to the kill list of who these drones are meant to use. And the idea that somehow people are able to decide how these weapons are used and how it's more legitimate for the government is something that's fundamentally flawed. So we understand the imperative and the logical move for all governments when they use this thing to keep it secret and to use it for their own military purposes, to use it for their own to aggrandize and to enhance the capabilities of their own armies and their own economy, which you think is something that's a self-interest of these governments there. And we think must be compared against the interest of Tony Stark, which we think is not self-interested, which we think in fact is fighting for the good of humanity. I explain this later by substantive, right? Secondly, the second argument he gave us was that somehow, governments can take a long-term versus a short-term view. But this again misunderstands the nature of democratic governments, which often see the need to promote military triumph in some sort of short-term view in order to gain electoral advantage. Right? And we saw this, for example, in the response to 9/11, when people prosecute wars like over the run-up to the elections right now, when Obama feels the need to engage in war against Iran, in order to prove that somehow he's democratic elections, in order to prove that he's fighting for right of America, right? And the rhetoric that comes from the right, which talks a lot about patriotism, which talks about how Americans shouldn't stand down or shouldn't let other countries cower. When you let the government hold a weapon like the Iron Man, the rhetoric of the right becomes even stronger, and you empower people and no responsibilities to engage in kind of war rhetoric. We think it's extremely harmful, and we don't think Tony Stark should be an accessory to this process. Let me go on to my substantives, right? First of all, why this goes against everything that Tony Stark stands for. Let's understand that Tony Stark is an individual who's always been anti-establishment, right? So he goes against his moral values and cause of the state. His very basis and principle of his personality is that somebody who stands apart from the state, who doesn't care what the government thinks, right? And he uses Iron Man to basis to do that. On the second level, we think that this undermines everything that he tried to create Iron Man for. So because the whole point of this thing was that when you give it up to the government, you surrender control over it. You surrender control over its development. You surrender control over how the government will use it. And the problem here is that Iron Man is so closely identified with Tony Stark that the association that people draw will be that Iron Man is being used in his name. Right? The action that government takes will be done in his name. And the problem here is that he loses control over the ability to have control of how the Iron Man is perceived in the public, which I think is fundamentally harmful to him, and he shouldn't stand for this. Next, why Tony Stark is more trustworthy? Right? Three important arguments here. First, the genesis behind the Iron Man itself was his recognition that Stark Industries was perpetuating through the sale of arms conflicts and fueling conflicts in conflict-ridden areas, reporting like people who engage human rights abuses. That's why the first thing he did when he was Iron Man was to go back and kill individuals who were terrorists, who were terrorizing villagers. I know this because Martin has immense reaction every time he does this in the movie, right? I saw this in Rome where he did yes, like Iron Man did. So I'm very familiar with this particular scene, right? So the basis behind his whole purpose of Iron Man is to fight evil and to do good. It sounds corny, but I mean Iron Man. Okay. So next, right? We think that this is a person who is basically decent motivation. Talking about an individual who sacrificed himself by flying to the rift and was only lucky that he fell in time before the rift closed. Talking about an individual who now is a group of friends, right? Who keep it on the straight and narrow. You know, like Captain America, who will tell you what is right and what is wrong. People who will listen to. Thirdly, we can understand that Tony Stark as an individual, his hero complex and his ability to decide to want to do good, his hero He loses that unique character that fuels his capability to fight for justice and to fight for the rights of individuals throughout the world. This is something that we want, I think Tony Stark should stand for. Yes?
If Tony Stark makes a wrong decision, there is no check on that. The check on the president is his group of advisors.
We think that in the first place, Avengers Group, Captain America is a check on Tony Stark. Let me go on to federal level. Why we think that the government cannot trusted? Right, and I find arguments for this group is very important. First of all, we think that often the objectives of the government are opposed to those in Iron Man, right? We already give an example of the nuke Manhattan, but for those who haven't watched the movie, what Iron Man did was then he tried to divert the nuke away from Manhattan because he understood he wanted to save the lives of the individuals there. Right? If government had possession of the Iron Man, what they will then do is they will fight Tony Stark and prevent him from being able to do so. And sometimes the government does things that work against the interest of people. And Iron Man is the only person able to stand up against the government. Secondly, this can combine a few ideas here, right? We think what happens here is sparkle an arms race. Because what happens is that people of China and Russia respond to the US Army's possession of these particular weapons, right? By finding the need to develop it on their own. Currently, they know that Tony Stark has it, and it's not going to give up US government, so they don't see that particular imperative for them. What happens now when the US government has it, they will respond to other countries to also develop such things. We think that Iron Man is too dangerous a weapon to be trusted to these particular governments, or for governments to use it as some form of arms race. Lastly, we think that United States government especially cannot be trusted with this particular weapon. How it gives them the power to basically overpower any other military that exists in the world today, which further as I explained earlier, empowers the rhetoric of the no controversies for the people who think that America should never stand down, right? Because now the only limitations keeping America from ending war, for example, is the understanding that we're going to send troops. It's the understanding that our resources are limited, right? But once you're Iron Man, you change that. Because the perspective of individuals is we have Iron Man. We can do anything that we want, and nobody can stop us. That was the reaction of shock and awe that we used in the run-up to the Iraq War, and we all saw Tony Stark is the individual who stands for good, who stands for justice. Giving up the Iron Man to the government who undermines any ability to achieve that, we can take the world to worst place. Very proud to oppose this.